Welcome everyone to today's meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee. Firstly, some housekeeping. If the fire alarm is activated, please take the stairs down to the reception area and out of the building to the green in Hawley Square, which is the assembly point. Please do not use the lifts. Officers will assist you and advise when it is deemed safe to return to the council offices. I would advise that if filming takes place, anyone in attendance in the public area may have their image captured. I urge anyone filming proceedings to avoid filming members of the public, particularly if there are children present. Does anyone intend to film the meeting? No. Would everyone present please ensure that their mobile phones are turned to silent and that they are not used to make or receive phone calls while the meeting is in progress. Agenda item 1, apologies for absence. Are there any apologies for absence? No apologies. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? Item 3, application for a variation to the premises licence at LA 13 to 15 High Street, Margate, CT9 1DL. Firstly, would the applicant and his team like to introduce themselves, starting on the right?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ian Maxted. I'm a director of Proud Pinkins, the owners of Lyle.
Gareth Braithwaite, manager, Proud Pinkins.
Graham Dillon, solicitor for the applicant.
And on the row there, would everyone like to introduce themselves? Okay.
Hello, I'm Louise, I'm shadowing, so I'm CEO Supervisor.
Bryn Everett, I'm the Civil Enforcement Administrator for the Parking Department.
And I'm Rebecca Glazer, I'm the Parking and Transportations Enforcement Manager.
I'm Lois Barnes and I'm the Technical Support Officer and deal with the applications.
Alison Brock, Technical Support Team Manager.
Deborah O'News, Chair of Thanet Council and member of the Licensing Committee.
Councillor Becky Wing.
Councillor Alan Curry, Chair of Licensing.
Gabriella Stewart, Democratic Services Officer.
Yetunde Olani, Principal Solicitor of Thanet District Council.
Thank you. So would the Technical Support Manager, Alison Brock, please present the report?
Morning, everyone. An application was received to vary the licence at 13 to 15 High Street, Margate. The application was advertised as required by the Licensing Act and a representation was received from TDC Parking. Comments and recommendations have also been received from Environmental Health and Kent Fire and Rescue, which are all within the report. Excuse me. And the subcommittee is now required to consider and determine this application. Thank you.
So, do members have any questions for the Technical Support Officer?
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a few. Some of them are just queries. So on section 12 of 18, late night refreshment provision, it actually says 23 0 hours to 00 hours. Should that be 11?
Yeah, but when it's...
Sorry.
When it's in the application, it does say it's done in the 24-hour clock. So late night refreshment only covers anything hot food and drink from 11 o'clock at night till 5 o'clock in the morning.
I suppose it's the front exit. Why is the front exit shut at the time it's stated in the report?
Would the application team ask any questions of the Technical Support Officer? Okay, so would the applicant or their representatives now present their application?
Yes, these applicants were previously at premises called Sundowners, which they took over from the previous operator. They're very experienced. Mr. Maxted ran premises in London, and all the time they were at Sundowners, there were never any problems. Due to lease issues, they decided to move to these premises. Members may remember these premises as John Brown's leather shop, and since then they've been licensed in various capacities. The premises are on 2 floors. The first floor, the ground floor, is the restaurant called Lafayette's. We have agreed with the authorities that that would be licensed until, although the license will be longer, that part would only operate until midnight. And it is the lower ground floor, which is the area which is the principal subject of the application, because there we seek not only a license until midnight or weekdays, but on Fridays and Saturdays until 2 o'clock in the morning. That area has a capacity of 60 people, and I will ask my clients to explain why it is that they use the rear exit. I make the point that this rear exit is not something new, it's always been there. I am aware of the concerns raised by the car parking people about that, and my clients will deal with that. As far as the rest of it is concerned, they will also deal with the reason as to why they don't want to use the front entrance after midnight. And dealing with planning, Ms. Bullivant of planning required a sound assessment test. The planning agent dealing with it, Mr. Helvidge, trying to negotiate this, but it has now been agreed there is going to be a noise assessment, in fact, carried out on Thursday, report by Friday, which will be back to planning, who will then consult with Sophie Craig of the Environmental Health Officer. If she's satisfied with the outcome of the noise impact assessment, then she would withdraw her concern on that, and that means planning would then issue the planning consent. Now, you may ask, why is the cart before the horse? The way these things are done is planning is put in, there's an 8-week consultation period. Licensing requires a 4-week consultation period, so licensing applications are put in on or just after the halfway point. The delay has been caused by the problems over this noise impact assessment. So what we will be asking you to do today would be, if you are minded to grant the application, grant it subject to a condition that it be not implemented until the noise impact assessment has been considered satisfactory and the planning consent is granted. So in a way, we're doing it in reverse order, but I suggest this because it avoids coming back for another hearing at a later date for the committee to be satisfied that the planners are satisfied, and in the past that has been found to be an acceptable way of proceeding if you're minded to grant the application in the first place, so it's held in suspense until planning issues their planning consent. Obviously, if the planning is not in place, even if the license is granted, you can't use it in contravention of planning. So a condition on the license which says it shall not be used is clear beyond peradventure, and the applicants clearly understand that they can't use it until this noise impact assessment has been done. They have actually paid a substantial additional fee to the noise impact assessors to produce their report by the following day. That's hoping to speed up the whole process. So that is really the basis of the application. I would ask, first of all, Mr. Gareth Braithwaite, who's the manager, to address you briefly on how, it's better if you leave it on the floor because it falls down, to address you on how he runs the premises and why they want to use this rear entrance and how they consider they deal with the problems that the car parking people seem concerned about.
So the issues with the rear exit, and as opposed to using the front exit, obviously the front exit is onto the high street, and we just feel it's better to, when people are leaving at the end of the night, even though the maximum would ever only be 60, it's probably easier and quieter and less disturbing to anybody in the vicinity if they're disputed into the car park area. Taxis can pick up there. It's just less interference with the high street. Obviously, there is a footpath that runs from the high street across basically into the car park, and there's another one off Market Street that comes into it. And a lot of people are wandering through there from other bars and places at all times of the night. So I don't think we'll be adding any additional or no greater than already exists with people wandering through that car park late at night. Obviously, we operate with that door on the current licence. People can come in and out that door already. Customers do. They use the rear car park. Obviously, the gate's always open as it's a fire exit during the day when the front bar's open. So it's always unlocked for people to come in and out that way if they choose to. There's never been any problems. Obviously, that's in the daytime, in the early evening, when it's a lot busier than it is from 11 o'clock onwards. And we just feel it's an easier way to keep the downstairs separate from the upstairs. Obviously, we're closing the bar upstairs by midnight at the very latest. It will probably be 11 o'clock in all fairness, but midnight is the time of the licence, but it will definitely shut down and shut us down by that point. And that just keeps separation easier. If we we can close and lock the door that goes through to that bar come 11, 12 o'clock, and it just keeps that separation a lot easier to manage. And we just use the one exit at the back. Our CCTV covers all that area. We've got security lighting that lights all that area. So we don't really feel there's any real issues there that wouldn't already, if there was any issues, they'd already be in effect, be happening, because it's already used and isn't restricted in any way. We don't feel we're going to add any more pressure to that. We have tried to reserve the space directly outside the door, or keep it as a keep clear area, which we're happy to pay the costs of doing that, and the loss of revenue from that space. We're happy to cover that. Unfortunately, parking weren't happy with that idea. It's not something apparently they do anymore. There were 2 spaces that were reserved in the car park previously. They've just recently been removed. I don't know what the situation was there. Like I say, our capacity is 60. Most of the people are the regular people that we know. It's not a real late club. It's a very different operation to what Sundowners was. We're very much upstairs are very much a lounge, relaxed, chilled bar, and downstairs is just somewhere for them to go later if they choose to. We'll have the occasional events down there, maybe a wedding or something, but it's not about major entertainment venue. It's just somewhere for our customers to go.
And you are aware that planning
Any other comments from the applicant?
When we had the initial site meeting with the planning department, it was them that sort of suggested the front should be closed at midnight and the shutters should be down, and that the rear exit would be the one, or the rear entrance exit would be operated from 11 p.m. onwards for anyone wishing to go for a later drink that had left the bar upstairs would go straight down. But once that the sort of 11 o'clock strike came, we could shut that door off, and then it would be the restaurant diners that would be leaving, enabling staff to go about their duties upstairs, shutting down upstairs. So that's cleared and sealed, and the high street is not disturbed. And that people would use the rear exit, where we have SIA badge staff in place currently using that now, operating, not because of it's a licence requirement, because we believe in safety for our customers and for our community, which is something we've always upheld. I've certainly done that in the last 38 years in the trade, so I'm very, very aware of the importance of the impact locally. That was where the suggestion came from, because it's an existing entrance exit that's in place, and has been since 1832. and I have been contacted by Mr. Craig Brown, the great-grandson of Mr. Brown, who established the business, who assures me that the rear entrance exit was always used from Charles Square because it was a gun room downstairs and they used to fire guns, and that was where they would be taken in and out from the back doors rather than the high street, not to cause concern for other people. So it's been an established entrance exit for over 120 years.
I don't think it's a condition that's been put forward that there should be SIA staff on the door, but we are quite happy for that to be included, should the committee think that's desirable. It is common practice, I think, in late licences, certainly once it goes from up to 2 o'clock.
Thank you. Anything else from the applicants? Do members have any questions for the applicant? Councillor Wing.
I mean, generally, I think I'm sort of in favour, but in the same way you need to be absolutely certain your customers are safe, I think we do as well. And that's the area that I sort of have some unanswered questions and concerns. And it's also really difficult because I don't know your premises. So one of the things I might be suggesting is that we're allowed a site visit, because I can't, the lower ground floor, I'm assuming, is the basement. I can't. And then I'm thinking, well, the front door's shut and the back door is the only way out. If in an emergency, we've got to open those front doors, get the shutters up. So for me, it would be, on a flat map, it makes no difference to me whatsoever. So I think that's my area of concern, is the safety in the bottom. And I noticed that the fire brigade asked for a fire risk assessment to be carried out. Has that been undertaken?
The fire risk assessment initially was done 18 months ago, I believe. We have not changed anything from the original plan, but because we're a new company in the premises, they've asked for an updated one. That is in place, and the inspection has been taking place, and I believe the paperwork will be going to planning this week. As the system works, it could be this week, could be next week, but it's certainly been done and it's in place, and there's no issue there at all.
I mean, I've personally enjoyed myself at nightclubs when I was younger, but how would you manage the 60? Because, you know, when we've had a bit to drink, we can be quite forceful and want to gain entry to a place that's already full. So how do you manage that?
We have in place door staff. Currently, we have them in place on the 11 o'clock licence, so it's not an issue in that respect. Our client base, in principle, are LGBTQIA members. The community locally, we do get a few that visit in from Canterbury or other areas, but in general terms, our client base is local, and they are also very respectful of the fact that we have a limited number, and they know if they're not in by 10:30, they're not going to be getting in, so they don't bother trying. That's the brutal honesty of it. But we do have SIA staff on the door who make it very clear bag searches are taken place. We have very clear policies as a company on that. There's no issue with disturbance outside. I'm very glad to say that the community I'm a part of isn't a community that causes disruption, generally speaking, to be honest with you. We're not aimed at the general market. We're a Pacific area.
Do you do a specific head count, and when both the top bit and the basement are in operation, is there free movement between the two places? So could there be a situation where we get to 70 down below because a few people have decided that in goodwill they've just decided they want to go downstairs, and a few have come up? So how do you manage that sort of flow between the two areas? The
two areas are separated by a fire door. The fire door is on a magnetic system, so if the fire door if the alarm goes off, the door automatically closes. We have a member of staff posted there once the club is open downstairs. We don't open downstairs until 8 o'clock. We only have 8 dining tables upstairs. It would be a very nice day if we could have those full every day of the week, every evening of the week. The reality is on a Sunday lunchtime they're full, and most Saturday afternoons they're full. In the evening, I would be surprised if we have 2 tables, maybe 3 tables in occupation with guests. The lounge bar upstairs, we can sit 21 people. Those that go to the lounge tend to be of a generation where they wish to be in a lounge, not a nightclub, which is why we've devised the 3 areas. So there is an area for each members or each area of our community who wish to desire a food, a lounge, or the club facility with music downstairs. Upstairs we have the door staff, and when you welcome a site visit, we've invited everybody for a site visit. The site visit would certainly open your eyes to the layout, and it's important. Unfortunately, there are no maps of the layout here today, because planning have those. You have got them. Okay, so you'll see. Okay, in the lounge bar upstairs, there's a central division at number 13 to number 15. The central division on the right-hand side, number 15, is the restaurant. Number 13, the left-hand side, is the lounge bar. We only have low tables, coffee tables in that area. We have one raised small table that sits 6 people, which would be deemed at bar height under standard practice. Nobody stands at the bar, nobody socialises at the bar. The bar is a service bar, that's it. Behind that, next to there is a disabled toilet. We have full disabled access. Behind there is the fire door, which is, beyond that is the staircase which goes down to the basement. Behind the staircase, upstairs, there is another toilet, and then the back door, which goes to the exit where the smoking area is. As you can see in one of the photographs, it's caged. We've got a gazebo over it at the moment while we're waiting for the roof area to be recovered, just to keep any customers that go out there to smoke dry, principally. So that's the sort of immediate area. You come in through the back door from the car park side in, so from Charles Square going into the premises, you go past a toilet, and you've got a staircase on your right-hand side which takes you down, which is a double-width staircase down to the basement area, which contains a 60. But at the top of the staircase is where the SIA badge staff are based. They have a clicker, so they count in and they count out. It's quite straightforward. We have CCTV everywhere, so there's no chance of anyone doing anything inappropriate or overnumbered. The 60 are not lost downstairs. There's nowhere for people to hide. It is basically a very large shoebox that was rebuilt post-bombing in 1943. So there's nowhere for anyone to go and disappear to anyway downstairs. Everyone can be seen. The cameras are monitored, obviously, as appropriate. But yeah, it's a clicker number system going in and out, and upstairs is a separate area, separated by a door.
Any other questions from members?
Hello. It seems a great shame to me that you've had to move, because I do remember the Sundowners, I think, in 1979. And seems a real shame. And I've actually walked past your premises now, unbeknownst that you were there and that's what you were doing. I do question why you can't come out of the front as well as the back, because back in last century there were clubs in the high street that spilled out into the high street, and it was all right, actually. Alison, I don't know if you remember coming out of those, and it was all right. I think a site visit would be good, because I am concerned that we're ferreting everybody through one back door when there's a perfectly good front door too. And I don't think it will be the problem that people might think it is going out the front. If you buy a place in Margate High Street, you're not going to have a tranquil existence, so don't buy there. And I wondered, the cars, I've got a photograph here of a car very close to the to your entrance. I don't know if you have this here. Whose car is that? Do you know? It's your car. Okay. Okay. Because if that was my car, I'd be worried. I'm not worried. But it's your car. Yes. That's all right. I have to concur. I do think I'd like to go and see it For real.
Any other questions from members?
I mean, I think it is a good idea to have a back entrance. I live 2 doors down from the Queen Charlotte on Addington Street, and I'm not particularly bothered by it, and I've bought there, so I accept it. But it is leaving. Sometimes people are louder than they know they are, and so I do see the issues of coming through a car park, but I don't. That can be easily addressed by allowing you to pay for that. You know, nobody's going to miss out. There'll just be a paid. You'll just pay, and that parking bay can be taken out of use. So I don't see the issues behind why that's not possible. Maybe parking can give me, there might be some reason that that's not allowed. So I do get that using the back entrance, but I think I also worry about the front entrance not being there in the case of an emergency.
The immediate exit as a fire line, which is on the fire risk assessment, and by guidance from the fire inspector, is that the rear entrance from downstairs, you're straight up the staircase and you're out the fire door, out the back door, which has been the case since 1984 when it was first licensed, I understand, under might have been 2007. With a company called Madhouse, which had that as a nightclub or a bar then, before it became damaged from internally, and then Bentley's took over and they had it, and the fire regulations then, there was in fact sound insulation requested at that point, which was put in place and accepted by licensing at the time and by planning at the time, although nobody appears in planning to have a copy of that because the records only go back to 2010. And unfortunately the lady that was the owner at that point has since passed, and her files and paperwork obviously have been lost over that time. We've therefore instructed an acoustic company to come and do the test, which the earliest opportunity when we asked them a number of weeks ago was this Thursday, so they're coming Thursday to do that. I can't make that happen any faster. So the fire doors and the fire regulations that we have achieved and have maintained have been an established situation for over 40 years. That's why the front and the back, if you went, you'd be going back into the building from the staircase at the back, you'd be going back in to go out the front door. Whereas with the fire, you're out at the earliest exit, and that is the exit. There's two, there's one behind the restaurant as well as the one we're looking at using here, which is a gated area, which has been gated for wheelchairs to get out, etc., for 40 odd years. It's not new.
Chair, I just wonder, Alison Brock can probably confirm that the requirement to close the front door comes from planning. Sorry? I don't know. Well, it was from planning that after 12 o'clock the exit should only be at the back. So we're rather stuck with it on the basis that if you're happy with my suggestion that you grant the licence subject to planning being granted, they're going to grant it on that basis.
Any other questions from you?
I mean, are we stuck with it though, just because planning have said that? Can we, I'm not talking about leaving as a fire risk, I'm just talking about leaving, just generally. Are we stuck with that? I'm not on planning, so I don't know.
I do sit on planning, and I think the application could be called in, and that could be a concern that the committee, if they felt that it created a risk, could overturn. So I'd be interested to know why planning have put that restriction on the front door. If that restriction has been put there by planning, it would be interesting to know the reason why.
Hi. Sorry, I've just, it's actually in the report. It's one of the comments from the environmental health. They've put the basement rear entrance to be used for access to the basement area from 11 o'clock.
I saw that in the report here, but it doesn't tell us why the front door isn't to be used, which I find quite strange. I mean, I don't know the area. Are there other premises that leave
I think
the front.
Principally, obviously, planning came along and had a site visit, and from their site visit, they felt that that was the best way. Obviously, it's the closest exit point. It's the, like I say, it keeps the bar separate, so the bar is locked off, so there's no access into that area. And it was felt by planning and environmental health, I think, were there at the time as well, that was the best form of entrance and access after 11 o'clock at night to keep anything off the high street.
If I may, we're not the only premises on Market Street car park with access to and from the car park. The Beetroot restaurant also goes in and out from the car park. They don't have a high street entrance, it is from the car park. The lighthouse, the lifeboat also has access and exit that way, as do 2 or 3 other retail units. I believe one is a restaurant, Angela's, and so on and so forth there, go in and out from the back of the car park. Many of their clients of the evening park in the car park, go in through the door and go back into their cars without walking up the high street through the car park. Beetroot very much, and also the public house, the old cottage, which I understand is due to reopen again in the next 8 to 10 weeks. Their entrance and exit goes onto the car park too.
Can I ask, as the people that run the club, which is the best exit for you? Because that's important as people that
From a security perspective, it is easier to manage people in one area. At the minute you open up a second area, and bear in mind the lounge bar is separate from a door, you have to then have a member of staff in that area. So for our positioning, we have the staff, we can relocate them, that's not a problem, but it's an awful lot easier to manage people coming in through that door and going out through that door. The minute they start going out that door and out that door over there and going through the building, completely through the building, the length of the building, you have to ensure that you make sure there's safe passage on the way out and you're aware of what incidents or issues there may be outside. You know, we're realists, we know that people leave. Sometimes you need to be aware of that, so I would have to place another SIA badged member staff upstairs to make sure the safe passage at the end of the night. And ultimately at the end of the night we're in control of shutting down one door rather than shutting down 3, because we have 2 on the front. So we'd have to shut down 3 doors to give passage out through the front, although we can restrict that to 1 at the front with the shutters. The disturbance for the neighbourhood is no greater than shut in and shutter down, either way, quite frankly. But there's no shutter on the rear door. There is a security gate which is of no noise whatsoever. So there's no disturbance in terms of noise at the end of that when everyone's left and we shut that gate and we lock up at the end of the night.
And can I confirm that taxis do use the car park, the rear car park, to pick up patrons from the club and maybe other people?
I can certainly confirm that the taxi habit is to come into the car park and not the high street, because they can come out of the car park and go whichever direction, whereas on the high street they follow the one-way system, which isn't a major difference. But on the high street also, they can end up blocking the high street because it's one way. They can block the high street waiting for guests to get into their cars. The car park is not an issue. That's certainly the experience of the other venues backing onto the car park.
Any other questions from members?
So actually I'm not being very helpful, am I, by saying open up your front door? I apologise. Actually, I apologise for that. I should have asked you what's best for you and your experience. Yeah, I apologise.
Any other questions, members? Can I ask the technical support manager if they have any questions for the applicant? Does the objector, the parking department, have any questions for the applicant? Can I ask the objector, the parking department, to present their case? Thank you.
Thank you. Apologies, I have got to go in 10 minutes as I've got interviews for jobs, but I'll try and get through my bit, and then obviously Bryn can take over if there's any more. So as the responsible person here at the council for the car park, I guess my concern, and the concerns that we've obviously raised already, is that we need to ensure that everybody's safe. People parking in the car park, and also people obviously using your premises. I guess previously it's been a daytime use, that entry exit, for the time that we've been using. I've known it as a car park, as in been responsible for it. And there are other premises that have entry exits around it, but I guess with it being open later at night, where we're going to have people intoxicated, the exit of that area, there is no land that is part of the premises outside of the gate. That's council land, and then it does back into obviously the parking bays that are there. Yes, there is the parking bays straight outside the premises exit, but there is also parking bays right away along. So even if we leave one bay, we've still got people's parked vehicles either side of a general bay there. The reason for the licence bays that were there have gone is we've been reviewing all of our licence bays, and Market Street car park at peak times is at high capacity, maximum capacity. There's never enough space, and actually there's been a review, and there is being a review with the parking strategy of all our car parks, and the licences of bays is something that we have reviewed, and that car park doesn't have enough capacity generally throughout the year, so that is one of the reasons, the main reason why that has been removed as an option there. The bays generate around £10,000 each a year, so it is quite a high budget for the council, that car park, so that is something that we've obviously have to take into consideration. The licences that were there before weren't anything like that, and that is again another review for them being removed. The car park is on charge until 10 at night, but it is used 24 hours a day, so anybody can park there and turn up and park overnight, pay for the next day parking. So it is a car park that is in general use at all times. And we don't have CCTV in that car park. The council doesn't have it. It's out on the road there, so that isn't something that we have that we can obviously ensure further safety. There is car park lighting, but it isn't really bright, because we obviously have to be careful about the sort of lighting that we have within car parks to ensure that residents around the area don't have big beaming lights throughout the car park when it's dark. So I guess for us, leaving that entrance, shuffling through vehicles, or just being intoxicated and trying to navigate through a car park at night brings us concern, because you're leaving a premises straight onto Thanet District Council land, which we are then responsible for and we are liable for. So because there isn't a walkway that is owned by the premises, or that is a pathway out of the car park, it is navigating through parked cars and then across the car park, and then either being picked up, I guess, by a taxi, or leaving through the alleyways that are already there. So there isn't provision for a taxi rank in the car park, so if we have queues of taxis that are going to be building up because that's the exit, again, that isn't something that we're aware of, and it isn't something that's within the risk assessment of the car park. So I guess from our point of view, it's the safety of people around the car park at that time of night, and we need to be ensuring that we are obviously safeguarding everybody involved. If there is people leaving, obviously I completely appreciate that you know most of the people going in there, but if we do have people, it's a nighttime economy, people are going to be intoxicated. If there's going to be issues with maybe urinating in the car park behind cars, or there's going to be people falling into cars, if they're intoxicated, they might damage a car. We don't want then that to become an issue that we have then got to be dealing with if this is obviously, if this is agreed, that this is going to be something that then may come back on us in the future. That's it from me. Have you got anything you want to say? No.
Does the applicant have any questions for the parking department?
Well, your anxieties are a what if this were to happen. I hope you're going to recruit more car parking inspectors. I hope you're going to recruit more car parking inspectors.
Inspectors, no?
Ticket issues.
Oh, civil enforcement.
Yes.
Oh, okay, no, that's not what we're...
Oh, shame.
Are you happy to answer the questions now?
Yes, I mean, this is an anxiety about what might happen. Yeah. The committee really should be dealing with evidence as to these problems if they have actually arisen. And so far they haven't arisen. Your anxiety is that between 11 and 2 they might, and there's a higher risk of that. That's broadly your position.
When we're looking at the risk assessments for the car parks, and we always have to look at the probability of what might happen. So yes, it may be a what if scenario, but we have to take that into consideration when we're looking for people's safety and also the general movement within the car park. So I appreciate what you're saying. It's a what if scenario, but it is still a possibility that it could happen.
Currently, the car park is pretty much empty after 11 o'clock at night. People only pay until 10 p.m. I've counted personally over the last 3 weeks just to keep an eye on how many is in there. I haven't seen more than 11 cars at the height in the 80 plus bays that are there. In terms of urination in the car park, our guests have a toilet right by the door. That's not an issue for us personally. We've not experienced that. We're very well aware. We've suffered at the back of it from the car park with the small community of the homeless street sleepers using the area as a toilet. So that's quite common. I'm out there with disinfectant pretty much every day cleaning. But the other venues, the intoxication comment, you have other licensed premises that back onto the car park that use it already. The car park is already used for taxi companies to pick up from those venues. It isn't going to make a massive difference. Not everybody uses a taxi. Most are local and walk. And the car park is a thoroughfare from Duke Street, Market Street, Old Town into the High Street, where you have Justine's at the top, you have 42. Certainly former Sundowners customers walk through there and have done for many years with respect. So I don't see that as an issue. There is a right of way of access across there. It's not ours, but certainly the public use it every day and every night. Absolutely every night. So I just put that out there for you. Thank you.
Any other questions from the applicant to the parking department?
Don't think so, sir, no.
Do members have any questions for the parking department? Councillor Wing.
I'd certainly like to see the figures on the 10,000 per bay, and I'm Ramsgate based, so when we got the finance information on parking, I think our Staffordshire Street car park was the most profitable in Ramsgate at 190,000 a year, and the multi-storey was 150. And when I did the maths per day, it was something like £450 per day was the multi-storey profit. So £10,000 a bay, I'd certainly like to see those figures. But I'm massively in favour of the parking strategy that was there, and clearly there were already businesses using this. From what we've been told, it's always been a public right of way. So was the access there before the car parks? And we also sit here as TDC councillors, and yes, the safety of our community is really important. So perhaps we TDC need to review the whole situation at the back of there with parking, and actually put people's safety before profit. because clearly there is a multiple use in this area that needs individual review and maybe safeguards being put in place to ensure that some of the parking bays are taken out to make people safe. You know, there's no assumption. I also think it's really bad to assume people are going to leave under the influence and not able to look after themselves. I think on the picture, is that yours? Is that a CCTV camera there that you have? So the business has already taken steps to protect people coming and going. So I guess what I'm asking is why aren't we as a council, it's not necessarily parking, why aren't we reviewing the back of this area to make things safe for several businesses that are using the car park as an exit?
Yeah, I'm not sure that you're right. That's really not a question that I'd be able to answer on. With regards to the earnings side of things, the bay that would be, this was the potential earnings of a single bay within that car park over the year. So the hourly charge for that bay is £1.70 an hour. It's on charge for 15 hours per day, and then that's obviously 365 days a year. So that's where that earning side of things comes into. We're not necessarily trying to push the loss of earnings side of things in this, which is why it's only mentioned very briefly. The main concern, obviously, that we have would be the safety and the safeguarding within the car park.
Could I ask, that 10,000 is a potential earning per bay, not what was actually brought. Do you know the figure of what that bay actually brought in last financial year?
I don't have that figure with me now, but if it's something you'd like to have, then we can certainly find that information for you.
I could possibly work it out myself with the financial information. So I will ask a question. Does the parking team, I know you do a great job, really great job in difficult circumstances. Do you think maybe that given the use at the back of this, there's a conflict between parking, or there's a potential conflict between parking and people leaving various places? Do you think there's some scope for actually reviewing the whole situation at the back of these businesses to make things safer for everybody?
I think that's a question that would need to be taken at not just at parking level, but at a higher level across the different departments within the council.
Thank you. Yeah.
Any other questions from members? Councillor Owen Hughes.
Mr. Everett, I find myself annoyed now, actually. I find myself annoyed at Rebecca Glazer's report, and then she just swans off. 4 times she's mentioned intoxicated for these people coming out there. What, straight people don't get intoxicated? Let me tell you, I've spent many, you'll know this, I've spent many an evening in heaven in London, and I've spent many an evening in the Ministry of Sound, and the only people I've seen urinating have been outside the Ministry of Sound. I find that offensive that she's had this report, and now I don't ever want to see that again. Truly, don't ever want to see that again. If she doesn't have the time to stay here and be answerable to the words she's just used, then don't bring her in. You give the report. You set it out. That's absolutely outrageous. What's the evidence? What's the evidence that LGBTQ people act in this way? I've never known it in any place I've been. How dare you? I think this is a good opportunity. This man's got a clear record of running businesses. Margate is what is it, Shoreditch-on-Sea or something. My son lives in Shoreditch. She said, I've got loads of friends living down there, and we're just stopping this because the car park, it might not get the revenue, or there'll be people urinating everywhere, or there'll be intoxicated people everywhere. You find that in Ramsgate outside the Spoons every Friday and Saturday night. I think this man deserves some help and encouragement to bring business into this town. And I can't get over my outrage. truly I can't. This is a clear case of no, can't do that, no, can't do that. He's saying, well, what about that we could do? No, can't do that, can't do that. I want to come and see your place. I want to come and see what you're doing to make it a nice place to go to and put this to rest. Can we have a site visit, please, sir?
Any other questions to the parking department? Does the technical support team manager have any questions for the parking department? Does the objector, the parking department, have any questions for the support team manager? I'd like to ask the applicant now to sum up their case before the deliberation begins. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. As I've earlier said, we have the hurdle of the noise impact assessment being approved by EHO and planning, and if that is the case, then the planning consent will issue. So the way of avoiding a further hearing would be simply to impose a condition that if the licence is granted, it be not operated until that planning position is in place. I anticipate from John Elvidge, the planning consultant, that if the report is in the hands of the planning officer on Monday, there should be a decision by then. Obviously, we're very keen to open for the Easter weekend. With reference to the objections, when I first started in licensing before councils as opposed to the magistrates, it was very clearly the policy of the committee that objection should be based on evidence, because local residents would come along and say, but what if this, and what if that, and what if the other? So the sort of term what if was adopted. We can all raise potential difficulties. And whilst I understand the concern of the parking manager that there may be disruption to customers' cars by intoxicated people, that's a risk all the time, and it could be from anywhere. To really try and block this licence on the basis of some what-if risk is, to me, seem overcautious. I understand that they see it as their duty to come before the committee, but I would invite the committee not to attach any great weight to that and be minded to grant the licence subject to the overriding condition of not coming into effect until planning has been granted. I don't think I can usefully comment any further. I think the committee themselves have ventilated the issue. If we are turning to practicalities, if the committee did want to pop down to see the area, we could adjourn for that purpose. I myself would invite to be excused because, as you may see, I've got a bit of a limp and I really don't think I could manage to flog all the way down there and back again. But if the committee were minded to do that, my clients would be very happy to entertain them, and we could then resume the decision. In the meantime, I might take myself around the corner for a cup of coffee. But it's entirely a matter for the committee to decide, but I don't think I want to spend any more time. Other than as solicitor of the Broadstairs Town Council, we live in hope of more car parking enforcement officers, as I'm sure everybody does, because it seems to me that sometimes people seem to park forever in marked bays without ever getting a ticket. But that's only my personal concern. So that's all I would wish to say, and I thank the committee for your attention to this matter, and in particular to the searching questions from the members.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. With the exception of the subcommittee members, the Democratic Services Officer and the Principal Litigation Lawyer, please can I ask those present to leave the chamber so that the subcommittee can come to a decision. You will be invited back for the decision to be announced. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. I would now like to invite Ms. Alagny, the Principal Litigation Lawyer, to read a summary of the subcommittee's determination.
Thank you. Having considered the application to vary the premises license for LA at 13 to 15 High Street, Margate, CT9 1DL, this licensing subcommittee have decided to approve the application subject to the planning application approval with the following conditions. 1. Noise management. The applicant shall submit an approved noise management plan and an acoustic report as specified by the environmental health, including necessary works to control noise level emanating from the basement. 2. Basement capacity and fire safety. The basement's capacity shall be restricted to 60 people as per Kent Fire and Rescue Services recommendation. The applicant shall submit an updated fire risk assessment for the basement area to ensure safety and compliance with fire regulations. 3. Security measures. The applicant shall implement a Challenge 25 policy, maintain a refusal register, and ensure that SIA door staff supervises any queues or event until closing time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That closes the meeting today. Thank you, everyone.